Now we will open the journal report. To open the journal report, you go to Reports, Accountant and Taxes, and then you go to Journal, which is at the bottom of the first section. And the dates, according to the instructions that we want to use, are for the whole month of February. So because the dates field is highlighted, I'm going to hit Tab. I'm going to enter 02/01/19, Tab, 02/28/19, Tab, and it refreshes. The instructions also tell you to change the Sort By column, right here, to Date. We don't want the default. We want to sort it by date. The default sort order is by transaction number, this first column. And we don't want that for grading purposes, because if you accidentally do transactions out of order, the transactions would not appear in order by date unless you change the sort by setting like we just did. Now the first thing to know about this report is that you should ignore the first column if you're trying to make sure your reports are matching my solution reports that I've posted on Canvas. The first column is a transaction number that QuickBooks assigns to each transaction. No two transactions will have the exact same transaction number. Therefore, if you make a mistake and delete a transaction, that transaction number is gone forever. In the real world, this is a good thing because it can help you determine if someone is deleting transactions without your permission. But for the purposes of this class, it's okay if you delete a transaction to fix a mistake. But if you do, your transaction numbers will no longer match the transaction numbers on my journal report that I post on Canvas. So that's why I recommend you ignore the transaction number column. When I'm grading your reports, I never look at the transaction number column. The next column, Type, is an important column. It tells you what window the transaction was entered in. If you see Bill, that means the transaction was entered in the Enter Bills window. Credit means the transaction was entered as a credit in the Enter Bills window. Bill Payment - Check means it was entered in the Pay Bills window. And finally, if you see Check, that means the transaction was entered in the Write Checks window. So if you're working on an assignment and having trouble determining which window to enter a transaction, you can look at the journal report that I posted on Canvas to double check. However, I don't post solutions for all the assignments. You will need to eventually get used to figuring it out on your own, of course. So when you're checking your journal against mine, the first thing you should check is to see if you have the same debit and credit total as I have. The problem is some students just stop checking right there. It should not be the only thing you check. It's possible that your debit and credit amounts are correct, but you might have used the wrong account in the transactions, or you entered a wrong date for a transaction. So the last thing I want to discuss about this report is the dates. Dates by far are the most common cause of errors in this class. In fact, after several weeks of this class, if it's a face-to-face class and someone says, I can't figure out what I did wrong, the rest of the class will often say, all at the same time, did you check your dates? Here's an example. A student might have used the wrong date for a transaction for this particular report. So if they accidentally use the date of May for a transaction, it's not going to show up for this report because this report is only showing February transactions. In that case, students often jump to the conclusion that QuickBooks lost one of their transactions. So if you remember entering a transaction but it's not showing up on a certain report, go to the Vendor or Customer Center, depending if it's a vendor or customer, and view all transactions for that vendor or customer. Then you can see if maybe you used the wrong dates. The other date-related problem that trips students up is they use the wrong dates for reports, usually because they're not paying attention. So always double check dates for transactions and double check your dates for reports.